The right view. There we go.
I was going to
Smart.
say, just you right now, but that's cool.
That's okay. Professional
We
streamer.
are live, but
That's
it's
me. We are live.
all Jake.
Okay.
Hey, there we are.
All right. God, we're both going to die by the end of this episode, Chard.
Well, we're going to be. Get your cough buttons ready.
That's true. You know what I should have done since Sinistar's out sick? I should have asked him what his opening line was. That's what I should have done. That would have been the smart play here.
I could text him real quick.
No.
Is he?
Is he? I don't know.
Good luck, gents. Thank you, sir.
It's okay. I can wing it. Okay. I'm ready. Are you ready?
I am now. People are yelling at me because I hit go live on accident. They're like, "You're not live, you liar!" And I was like, "I fucking pressed the wrong goddamn."
Well, you should have said
incoming MP. There's an incoming MP.
Incoming MP. Oh, I guess I'll wait.
I feel like someone's in a liar account. Yeah, okay, here you go. What do you say?
My opening line was going to be, we talk about soap operas
Today on. Welcome everybody to another episode of Press Me to Cancel, your favorite retro podcast, at least for the next 20 minutes, or at least that's what the algorithm tells me. I am your host this week, Sick Jake, and I'm not alone. Well, I'm mostly alone because everybody's out sick this week, but I do have my second favorite host of the team, Chard Monk. How you doing this week, Chard Monk?
I'm glad I reached second. I've been all over the board with you today. I've been your fourth and third favorite streamer today.
Yeah.
And now I'm your second favorite host. So holy shit.
Well, I mean, GP's not here this week, so we have to keep GP in our thoughts and minds. Thoughts and prayers.
Sinistar's not here for me, so this is definitely my third favorite host.
Sorry, we'll bring out William Shahatner next week. How about that? All right,
that's my least favorite host.
This week we're going to talk about a game. Well, it's funny. So we're thinking of ideas for games to talk about on the podcast, and I noticed that you were playing Another World, which is a fantastic, great game. Gotta ask, why did you decide to play Another World?
We actually talked about it last week in the Final Fantasy 16 episode. It was brought up. And we had done the rotoscoping episode with Prince of Persia, a few months ago, and for some reason, like Wolf was talking about it, and I was like, I remember I got I played it as a kid on the Genesis, and I wasn't very good at it then, and then I got an anniversary edition that was on Xbox that I downloaded and played it on there, and then I beat it on Xbox, and then we were talking about it again, and I was like, you know what? That sounds like a lot of fun. And I had stepped away from retro for a little while and was playing, Final Fantasy 16 and Demon Souls and all the new stuff on the PlayStation 5. And I wanted something to invite me back into retro a little bit that wasn't like an RPG or something super heavy story driven.
Right.
And I went, you know what? I remember this game being relatively short. So let's just jump into that. And it's relatively short, probably doesn't do it justice because this game was like 45 freaking minutes long. We beat it. And I went, oh, okay. And then I was thinking I was going to do flashback, and kind of the other rotoscoping games kind of started to come to my brain for that one. But I love this game. And Wolf had mentioned it was on sale on Steam for the summer sale, I think last weekend.
I wasn't really. Shoot, I should have picked it up.
And it was like $1 or something. And while we were talking on the FF6 episode or 16 episode last week, I bought it like while we were in the middle of the episode, and I went, well, I guess I'm gonna fire this bad boy up. So summer sale's still on. So we picked it up and then we gave it a run. So it was kind of a wing and a prayer where it was just in conversation. We brought it up and I was like, I should play this. I haven't played this in a while and I really like this game. And unlike Flashback, I know I can finish it. So let's kind of crack our knuckles and get back into another world. And then we were like, let's talk about it today. So here we
Yeah.
are.
So that's wild to me when you said 45 minutes, because I did too play this game on the Genesis as a kid, and I never beat it. I liked it, but I never got very far. I only made it like, I think after watching a playthrough this week, I think I made it maybe a third of the way through. I thought this game was a lot longer than it actually is. I think the playthrough I have spun up,
Yeah.
I'll show some footage on YouTube for the viewers. I think the playthrough is, yeah, it's just under 30 minutes. And this guy dies. So I think if you were to play this game without dying, if you knew every way of going through all the stages, if you can call them stages, you could probably beat this game in 25 minutes, which is crazy
Yeah.
to me. So I never beat this as a kid. I did beat Flashback. I remember renting Flashback and liking
Oh, wow.
it for different reasons. And I did beat that one. So that's interesting that you beat this one and not Flashback. So we're talking about Another World, which is a game that came out in 1992. So it was by developer. He did the art too. It's a one man, literally pretty much a one man show. His name is Éric Chahi. I feel like the Canadian on staff, I should be able to pronounce the French name, but I probably butchered it. But it's a one man show. He did the entire thing. From what I read in my exhaustive research, he saw the flat shaded vector graphics of Dragon's Lair on the Amiga port and was impressed with it and wanted to kind of do something similar in that style. And I'm telling you, the Amiga is, I know it's a super popular in Europe, but it's almost unknown to North American audience. And I wish I played more of the games on the Amiga, because this system is impressive for its time. And looking at the original version of of Another World on the Amiga, it looks good, like really great, fluid. It looks awesome. It plays well. Not to knock the ports, the Genesis port also plays very well, and the SNES one too, and all that. But that Amiga port is fucking smooth. Sorry, YouTube. Really impressive. So that was the thing there. But one man show.
Like it. We're a couple minutes in. We're good.
Oh, we're still good.
We're safe now.
It won't take us down. But yeah, I was really impressed with Another World's like graphics and presentation. So you mentioned the rotoscoping. So we talked about that before. You're right. How I believe he got his friend to help record the animations and then rotoscope the animations for this character. And that's
Right.
You look at the game today and compare it to, like, if you take the graphics today and hold it today, yes, it's a little pixelated, but the fluid animation still really holds up well. What do you think about the animation style today? Hmm?
Yeah, I mean, even it's funny because if you play the original, you play this version, the newer version. Sounds like you have your hands on it now. Lucky you. If you play the original version and you press, I don't know, I use my PlayStation controller. So if you press triangle, it will actually downgrade the graphics to the original port, or the original look of the port. So it takes away a lot of the background look and a lot of the stuff and adds a lot of the pixelation to it. But it's so smooth. Like, it is so clean playing it in either version. Like, in my playthrough, I actually went to the point of changing it on and off, like as we were playing through it. Downgrade me, daddy. What's up, GP? And the motions is so nice. Like, it actually feels like walking. The only issue with it is it feels like there's slow response to like jumping and trying to avoid things. So there is a timing issue with some of the stuff that you're playing with. But it's not like Mario where you're going to jump 50 feet into the air. You're going to jump like a normal human being. It all plays like you are actually a person without any kind of special powers, just trying to get through. And this game doesn't hold your hand, and with at any respect, even with the newer version, it doesn't. So I think the graphics and the animations, I'm going to go on a tangent, so I'll try and steer back onto the graphics question. I think the graphics, I mean, they're doing a switch right now where you can see the downgrading versus the normal. And really the only difference is the backgrounds are a little cleaner and it's a little less pixelated, but it still plays super smooth. Yeah, there's more textures and stuff involved. Still plays super smooth. Still feels really, really good in your hands.
Yeah, it's really neat in that. So the original game, pretty much the entire thing was vector style or not vector style graphics. Well, I guess it was vector style graphics, but flat shaded graphic style. And in the remake, this is the video footage that we're showing on YouTube right now is of the 20th anniversary edition that came out. I think that's the one that was on sale on Steam. And they kept the same graphical style. The character and the enemies and all that are the same, but they've done like a pass in the backgrounds to add some detail to it. But it still works. It's still a lo-fi, vector flat shaded kind of style to it. It looks really good for modern. What's neat though is so this is a game that got ported to, feels like everything. I mean, there's a foam port.
Feels like
I think there's a Jaguar port that may not have been released. SNES, Genesis. There's also a 3DO port. The 3DO port was unique in that they also tried doing a texturized, elements on the background, and it looks awful. So when I say the 20th anniversary edition, that looks great. This is remastered in a way that makes sense. The 3DO version, you got to go back and look at it. It looks terrible. And it also does something in the beginning, and only in the 3DO version, I believe. In that port, during the intro, there's a Star Wars-esque scrolling text into the background that gives you the story from the manual, and it's absolutely awful. It's really tacky. And a game like this doesn't need it, because the game, even though there's no dialogue, there's no text, right? It's just universal language of just animations and motion. The opening is just so great, right? Like, you have a guy who's obviously a scientist, pulls up in his Ferrari.
Yeah, with a fucking sweet ride, dude. He's like peeling out. It's so 80s. I mean, this was made in the 90s, but it still feels like super
80s-esque.
I mean, it's early 90s, right? It's late 80s. So he's pulling up, probably jamming fucking Winger as he's sliding into his work to do some late night experimentation. It looks like Tron. Like, it's the same concept of Tron,
And like he pulls in an elevator, pulls up to his particle accelerator in his office, as you do, and an experiment goes wrong, and he ends up teleporting to another world. This game is also known as was it Out of This World in North America?
Out of This World.
Out of This World, yeah. Because I think Another World was already copyrighted or trademarked in North America, but it's Another World everywhere else. And you're in this like basically far off alien planet with, you said no hand holding, couldn't be more right. There is literally nothing. There's no text instructions, no prompts, nothing. Our buddy falls into the pool after being teleported, manages to swim up in the first sequence, which I gotta say, in the first opening scene of this game, I drowned. Did you drown in the first scene of this game?
Oh yeah. When I first played it, I didn't realize, because I thought it was a cutscene. Yeah. So I was like waiting for him to do whatever he's gonna do, and then it does the bubbly face, and I was like, yo, what the hell am I supposed to do? Is it ready? And then I eventually pressed up and saw him start swimming up, and I went, oh, okay. Yeah. That's how this works.
Yeah, I died in the first screen. I don't feel so bad now, because I felt really stupid when I got grabbed by the tentacles, I think it was. They pull you down. So it was hilarious. So I die in the first screen, and then you manage to resurface out of this water, and basically you explore around a little bit. And then there's these slugs. I know I was going back and forth offline with you guys, talk about this game. I couldn't get past the first stage, I'm going to call it. And in this first stage, you go to the left, there's a cliff. You go to the right, and there's these slimes. And you can jump over them, but it's tricky, because as you mentioned, the controls in this game don't feel that good. So what do you think about the controls? You want to expand on that a bit more?
They're a little clunky, and I feel like there's a lot of timing issue that you need to figure out, because there are sections that excuse me. There are sections. Jake and I are both getting over fucking sicknesses right now, so bear with our coughing. I apologize. I'm trying not to cough on stream. So there seems like there's like windows that you can jump and get through, but I think the worst part about it is there are some like unmovable objects that you need to figure out where your placement needs to be, or you have to be fast, because there's stuff that's like the slugs, for instance, when they fall, because they fall from the roof too. There's two on the ground, and there's an open spot that you can kind of jump into real quick and then jump out of if you're running. But if those four fall, then it's just one big cluster, and you're going to get hit every time. So not knowing that there is a different way around it, which we found out later, I actually jumped them every time and got through it with jumping. Yeah, I did. There should have been an achievement for that. For the first half of it. But I feel like until you can either quickly figure out your footing placement for all your jumps, that's like the biggest puzzle of all. Obviously, there's nothing telling you what you need to do to move forward. And it's a lot of trial and error. And I think that's why this game is so short, is because there's so much trial and error of this game that it could easily turn into like a 3-hour game if you're just trying to, hit your head against the wall to get through it. The controls can be a little clunky. When you finally pick up the laser gun and you have a weapon on you, that can also be kind of a little clunky. But once you feel it and get the feel down for it, then it starts to kind of, come to fruition. But this game's early Soulsborne. I mean, there's a lot of trial and error with this game and learning where things come out of and where enemies attack you and what position you need to be in so that you don't get your face blown off. A lot of the death animations are kind of cool, and I think I've seen every single one of them because it's a lot of dying and learning because there's no hand holding in this game.
Well, even those slugs in the ground in the opening sequence, if you step on them, it pans to it's not quite cinematic, but a zoomed in of the slug, a fang comes up and tears into your leg and you fall down dead. And they're all like that. They're all really great animations when you die for a lot of sequences.
I love the death animations. They're really cool.
And unfortunately, you see a lot of it, a lot of the death animations over and over again. For the controls, the one thing to keep in mind too with like comparing the Genesis version with the original is the Amiga version. Like a lot of Amiga games, there's only one button on the Amiga. So that means you have your attack button, and to jump, you push up on the joystick. So now imagine playing Another World when you only have one button and jumping is pushing up on the D-pad. It'd be very frustrating. So I think they might have improved the controls a tad bit with the ports, but not a whole lot. It definitely feels clunky.
They left the jumping on the up buttons for the controllers as well. Now they have.
Oh, did they? Okay.
They have extra buttons for So if you're running and you press up on the diagonal, you'll actually jump in that area. So if you're playing on, I was playing on, of course, the greatest controller, not voted by my peers, but we were playing it on this guy.
You sure about that?
If you press forward on this on accident, you sure about that? I am sure about that. If you accidentally go too high, you'll start hopscotching.
Right.
So you have to play it on. You almost have to play it on the D-pad so that you don't accidentally press too high on the joystick, or you'll start bunny hopping everywhere you're going and then getting killed by everything.
Yeah, this is definitely a game that if you're going to play it today, I would not play with an analog stick. You really do need a D-pad of some sort. Otherwise, it's too frustrating. But the controls are clunky, but it fits this style of game. Right? When we look at other rotoscope games like Prince of Persia, like Flashback, it's the style of the game where the animation is very fluid and you're very much committed to the animation. Much like you said, like Dark Souls. It really is like that. When you play Dark Souls and you hit an attack, you're committed to the attack frames. And it's kind of like that in this.
Exactly. But I mean, I don't want to say because like you said, it's the design of the game, right? So if you're playing Prince of Persia, or you're playing Flashback, or you're playing any of these other Oddworld, or any of these like auto rotoscope kind of games, if I were to jump forward in real life to go over a pit, I better fucking commit, because I can't stop in midair, right? I can't stop 100%. In midair to make this jump. I'm going to fall in and die. And that's the end of my personal life. So they make it more realistic. So they make it so that you have to go. I mean, obviously you get to come back. I don't get to come back. If I fucking jump and die, I'm dead. Right. So to make it more realistic, they make you think about your decision making instead of I'm just going to barrel through this thing, because you can run, like you can sprint through the game, but if you do, you're going to get your face blown off because you're going to go into another screen and then something's going to be there like pointing a gun in your face, or a slug's going to bite you and you're going to die, or you're going to get your leg chewed off by a pit monster. Like you can't just blindly run around. And in a lot of these games, it's the same way as the other games that I mentioned. You have to be a little more meticulous about how to approach the next thing. And I compare it to Souls. Being a Soulsborne player is because you have to think about what you're doing. It's not Mario 1, Super Mario 1, where you just hold down the run button and run left and you just figure out where the jumps are timed and you can barrel through each level all the way up to 8-2. Sorry, sister, I didn't mean to trigger you, but you know what I mean? Like, you have to think about each next level that you're going to do. And I think this makes this game more realistic in its sense that you're just an average human that shows up in a weird place, and you just have to use your average human ability to get through it and think about what you're doing next. Now, dying a lot allows you to learn like what the
Right.
patterns and everything are, because things don't typically change. It's not like it's always gonna do the same thing. You just need to figure out the right way to go about it. So that's I don't want to say the controls are clunky in the sense that they're janky and broken.
Yeah, they're
They're
not.
designed as if you were playing a human person
Yeah.
trying to get through a very challenging area. So
Yeah. And like we say, like, games, we like to say that we like games that make you feel like a badass. You don't really feel like a badass in another world. You feel like you,
No.
right? Well, I wish I could run this fast, but but you do feel like a regular
Same.
Joe in a crazy alien environment.
Right.
But the one thing you do have, and you mentioned earlier, was you do get a laser pistol, and
Mhm.
it's a bit tricky to figure out, but it has a couple different uses. One, and obviously it shoots, like a zapper. You can also charge shot with it, which will take out an enemy in one blow or knock out a door. And then you can also, if you hold it longer, you can make shields, like force fields. And it's the same abilities that the enemies have, which I found was really interesting. This is not a combat heavy game, although toward the end it gets quite hectic. But it's very tactical combat when it's there. You have enemies coming on the screen shooting you. You have mere seconds to whip out a force field, and then you're trying to take out their force field with charge shots and then snipe them away. But what you may not realize when you're doing all this shooting, you have to be careful because this thing is not finite. It's got a battery in it, and the first pistol you get runs out of charge pretty quick if you're pretty stupid with it, as I found out a couple times. I don't know if you ran out of energy with your pistol or not.
I did. Yep. Yeah, because you're like, I got a gun. And what do all Americans down here do when they get a gun? They just start fucking shooting it, right? They don't think about it. So,
Yeehaw.
you pick up the laser gun, you're like, wow, I got a weapon. This is neat. And you're just like, pew, 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 pew. And then something comes and attacks you, and you're like, click, 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 click. Shit. So, but I honestly, to carry on the three different phases of the gun, is the shield one's the second charge, and the big charge is the third charge. So you have to, like you said, you have to time your stuff right and make sure you get the charge in the right spot. And sometimes you can put your shield up too close or too far, and you'll be shooting the back of your shield, so you can't shoot through it. So
Shit.
even though the guys can't hit you, you're hitting the shield and you can't shoot through your shield. You have to position your body just far enough up that you can fire your own gun and knock it out. So there's a lot of challenge to it. And I think what I appreciate again is there's no hand holding. You have to figure this all out. Like, you can read the manual, and I think it gives you a few strats, but you have to figure all this out as you're going. And I think I appreciate the difficulty level of that, to be honest with you.
Well, even the first area with the slugs, like we mentioned, the way you're supposed to do it, which if you manage to jump across all the slugs, power to you, because that's amazing. But the way you're supposed to do it is you walk up to the slugs and you kick them.
For a reason. So, yeah.
But you stomp on the slugs.
I'm stubborn, man. I do RA.
Well, I'm actually surprised there wasn't an achievement for that. But anyway, you stomp on the slugs, and then you wait for the ones missing the drop, and you stomp on those too, and they don't respawn, which I didn't quite realize.
Right.
And then when you run to the right, you encounter this giant beast, which is really, really greatly animated. It's awesome. And when it chases you, you're free to run and not worry about the slugs. That's how you get through that sequence.
It runs like the dogs from Ghostbusters. So it looks like the Vince Clorthos and the Zools in dog form as they're running through. I was like, there was a big appreciation of that while I was watching that animation of them running the same way. So I kept saying, let me in, let me in. I sounded like Rick Moranis.
But it's such a great sequence to open the game, right? Like, you're running from this dog past the pool, and then you have to jump. Then you realize you jump off the cliff, and there's a vine, and it swings you back, and you're still running. And then you bump into an alien, and you continue to the next stage. And like this, there's storytelling there without a single word of dialogue, without a single word of text. Right. Just the environments and the animations. There's not even a lot of music in this game. I think a couple sound bites. Like there's
a few snippets of tunes, but there's not a lot of holy shit, that's a banger. Like, there's nothing that's holy crap, that I'm not going to listen to the Out of This World soundtrack driving to work like I would say Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI or something. But it feels like it's the way that they do the music. It is situational, and it's almost like a reward. Like, when you solve a problem or solve a puzzle or you move on from the next thing, the music kicks in, and you're like, oh, I solved something. I must have figured something out. But it's not a chime. It's actually like a tune, but it's
It's not like
huzzah,
Zelda, you
I
got a
fucking- I
thing.
did it.
It's
Yeah.
literally a little jingle.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's and this probably comes back to the fact that this was pretty much a one-man operation. There is a guy who's credited for the music. I can't recall his name, but I saw him in the credits. But there is not very much music. This is mostly a game that was programmed, designed, artwork, level design, tested kind of by one guy. And actually, that was one of the fun things I read when I was debating which version of the game to play this week. I was trying to figure out, well, what's the original? Well, the original was Amiga, and I think Sinistar mentioned he had played the Amiga version. And when I was looking it up, apparently the Amiga version never got a full QA pass because there was a delay in getting this game at the door, and the publisher didn't want to wait, so they kind of pushed it out for sale early, and there was a number of bugs in the Amiga version. I don't know how pronounced they are. I don't know if people noticed. Maybe they're at the end of the game. But this game wasn't fully ready to go live on the Amiga. But that's stuff that was bug tested on the other ports.
I mean, that makes sense to me because, like you said, it's a one-man show, right? So they probably didn't have a ton of time to figure out the issues and whatnot. And he was probably like, yo, I need more time in French Canadian or however you would say it in French. And they were like, no, fuck you. Sorry, YouTube, but we want to sell this thing. We're going to make some money off of this. And it honestly kind of reminds me of what we're dealing with right now with ports and games that have been out for a while, and then their remakes coming out and they're terrible on Steam, just because of the way that they're designed. I mean, it's just full circle, right? We are now entering the early 90s of game releases.
Yeah, I'm just going to point out he's not French Canadian. He is real French. French. Not
just real French. Okay.
Sorry, Quebec.
Quebec. Sorry, Quebec.
Yeah, there's no poutine.
Sorry for my insensitivity of this whole thing. But
I don't know what else can we say in this game. Is there a sequence of this game that was incredibly frustrating for you?
Honestly, the slugs, I think, were the worst part of this whole game. But there is an area, to be honest with you. Okay, so there is an area, and I'm gonna try not to spoil anything. My Garuba, yeah, there is. That's what I like. Like you said, there's no language at all within this game. There's no texts. There's nothing. But for some reason, you are driven by a force from point A to point B to get through this game, and it feels really freaking natural. Like, if I were this person, this is how I would go about trying to figure out where I need to go. I'd kick a guy in the dick to get through something, whether he has one or not. I don't know. He's an alien species. But I mean,
maybe he deserves
a lot of the
it.
creativity. Maybe he does. Well, I mean, if he punches me in the face, then you're going to get a dick kick. I'm sorry. But so, I mean, there's a spot that I've always appreciated playing this game from start to finish, where there's a guy, one of the guards is walking down below you, and you see 3 green lamps. And this, when I first played this game, I got stuck here because I didn't realize this is what needed to happen. But they're not lamps, they're like orbs. They're light fixtures essentially in this other world.
Chandeliers,
and you're in a dome.
Accurate.
Yeah, I think that's better. So there's 3 of these green spherical chandelier looking things, and then there's this little square hole in this dome, and you're on the outside of it. And you can see now, mind you, this is 91, right? 1990, 91. You can see in the bottom of the sphere things something moving around. There are 4 lights. You see him moving around. Calm down, Picard. And then you can't, like, if you take this guy head on, he kicks your ass. Like, there's no way around this dude. He's got like 3 shields on him. He's throwing grenades at you. There's no way around this guy. So the trick is you got to knock him out with one of these orbs, and you have to time it. And even returning to it last week when I played this, I forgot the timing. So I had to sit there and wait and watch, and you could see his reflection in the sphere, and he'll stop periodically, like right in the middle of the sphere, and that's when you shoot it. Because if you shoot it and you miss, he runs to the corner and starts shooting up at the roof, and then you're done. You like have to reset, not the whole game, but at least die and reset the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was really clever. I thought that was something, at least in my young age in the 90s, that was something I never thought of, was like environmental use of stuff to knock out enemies, as opposed to just, full bore going through it, or whatever else you needed to do. I thought the introduction of using essentially traps that were
Yep.
set up in the game was really, really cool. But again, they don't tell you that. You don't know that. You have to watch it and learn it just like you would in real life. Like no one's going to go, "Hey, but just so you know, in this strange world that you're running around in, it might be a good idea to watch the reflection of the chandeliers." No one's going to tell you that. You're just trying to figure it out. So I really, like, at a young age, I was frustrated. I was like, "This is stupid." But as I appreciate it as an older person, going, "That's really some really well thought out, like, environmental inclusion through a game where using the environment wasn't super." I may be wrong. Don't burn me on this. Don't at me on this. But using the environment to get past something was not a common occurrence in these earlier games in the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. It was, if you can't, you got to figure out how to get around it. It's going to be pretty much either jump on the dude's head or slap him or something or throw a rock at him or whatever.
Right.
But it was never, I'm going to shoot this light down. It's going to knock this guy out and I'm going to be able to get by him. I thought that was a really cool
And I think
feature.
the idea of you're looking for the reflection of the guard in the lamp, that's pretty unique for its time. I can't think of another instance of a game that does that. The closest I can picture for this game is it's kind of like Myst, or you know what, the Sierra games like Space Quest, King's Quest.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but without the typing.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me, and more action oriented. But every screen is a puzzle that you need to figure out, and you'll probably die dozens of times or more on one puzzle. But once you figure it out, you kind of know how to do the game. But it's definitely using the environment like that is very interesting for a game like this, and very much ahead of its time, and something that I feel impacted other games today when you look at games like this. My favorite sequence here, actually, let me pull it up real quick while we're showing video for those watching on YouTube. For those listening to audio,
while you're looking that up, I'll add, like you said, like there's certain sections of this game where the action gets crazy. Like there's laser beams and shit flying, and there's foreground. There's background, foreground, and like where you're at. So there's depth to this game.
Yes.
So there's
you see
certain
a big
areas
guard
where
walking across the screen.
yeah, like a guard walking across the screen. You're like right in his face, and then you see shit in the background. This one. This is a great example. But there's stuff in the outside too, where it's like you're seeing all these lasers shoot by, but they're bigger because they're closer, to the screen. But you feel the depth in the screen. It's not like, well, that guy's just like super big. It's not a trick. It's a trick of the eye, and they do such an amazing job on depicting that it feels really cool. Like you're running and you're actually like, oh, if I shot by something. And not a games like back then didn't make that action. They didn't have so much intensity. This fucking tank scene is a perfect example of the goddamn butt pushing scene.
Super cinematic. And that tank scene is where I got frustrated as a kid, because you're in the tank and there's a control panel. It zooms in on a control panel and you're trying to figure out what button to push. And it's just maddening. But this whole sequence where you jump in a tank, you fly into this arena, and there's a full spectacle of aliens watching you as tigers, or their version tigers, are attacking things. You fire a rocket so you can escape. Then you launch to escape pods. You land in an alien sauna, and you see some alien butt cracks. So that's always great as a teenager. And then it's just a nonstop run from laser fire. And it's very action-packed sequence, and it's really freaking well done. Again, very cinematic. And I'm going to take the video off because I don't want to spoil any more of this game. But it's just everything on your eye. Everything is so visually presented in such a way that you don't see in other games from 1992. Like you really don't.
Yep.
Right. Most of the games at that time are very static. They're very sprite and tile based, and just the enemies only have one set of animations. Whereas this one, you have them walk in front of the screen. Some of them wearing helmets. They have different moves. Yeah, they all look the same. They're all aliens. What do you want? But it's very cinematically presented, and just every screen or section looks very different from the other ones, despite it being it's a simplistic flat style of graphics, but it looks so good. I'm really impressed by this game visually. I just wish the music was there. I wish they added more music to the game, to be honest with you.
I mean, I can get that. I can get that argument of needing a little bit more to kind of keep your interest in. But even then, it just this game feels so natural. It feels like, I mean, the art style is awesome because it's very basic. It's super simplistic. There's not a lot of detail. in the characters. It's really flat, but it still feels and looks good. You know what I mean? Like it's not bland. It you would think about it like if the way you and I are describing it, it can sound this game sounds pretty goddamn bland, but it's not. And it's not like you're looking at the detail of the game, it's the way it's playing and the depth of level and the depth of vision. The puzzles in it are really challenging and really cool. And once you figure it out, you almost got that kind of badass feeling. You're like, "Oh man, I made that jump finally," or "I
Right.
climbed across those columns," or "I slid in the right spot." But you have to figure it out, and that's the cool thing. Or you're running from the dudes that's blasting all the doors behind you, and you're like, it's intense. And there's scenes where you're like, there's a guy that you save that's in a cage with you, and the Mike
Yeah,
Ruba
your
guy.
buddy. Yeah.
His buddy, he has to come to your rescue a few times and you've got to time it right. Like, but you don't know that. You have no idea. You're like, this guy's supposed to come and pull me out of an air vent. Where the hell is he? And you backtrack and he's stuck somewhere, because
Or he's dead
you weren't
because you
patient
didn't
enough
get there in
or
time.
he's dead. Right, exactly. So, but you don't know that until you do it. And I don't know. I could see that frustrating people, and I could see people being like, well, I like to have a little bit of knowledge about what I'm getting into. But for me, I like that challenge. I like that, okay, something happened here. I need to go back and look at it. I mean, we're showing the video right now of the foreground, of the use of the foreground and the background, where your friend helps you up and you go into a room and he's held up. If you go into that room, you're dead. You can't do
Yeah.
anything about it. But if you go behind the room, because you don't know you can do that until you find the fucking walkway that sends you there. And then you can come from behind and he jumps on the one dude and beats the shit out of him. And you take out the other guy and then you help him. Then that's how you progress. Excuse me. There's so much of that in this game where it's like, there's a lot of different aspects to this that make it cool. And again, we keep talking. This is 1990. I mean, this is
Yeah.
not recent by any stretch of the imagination. This game's over 30 goddamn years old. And to do that back then was really impressive. And for one guy to do it, I mean, you hold up a guy and he shuts a locked door on you. So that's part of the puzzle. If you don't do that right, then you can't get past the next spot. There's so much to it. You got to put a shield up so a guy throws grenades at you instead of shooting him in the face because it unlocks another thing. But you don't know that unless you
Yeah.
try it. And I just super appreciate that whole concept of how they designed this thing.
Yeah, this is really a fantastic game, and we haven't really seen anything like it since. I mean, there was Flashback, of course, which is done by the same guy in his company that he worked with, Delphine, I want to say it is.
Yeah,
Flashback
Delphine,
is
I
great,
think,
but
yeah.
quite a bit of a different game than this. There was a sequel to this game, Heart of the Alien, I think it was called, but it didn't have any involvement with the original creator. In fact, when it came out, he actually panned it, said it's not his game. He was asked about doing a sequel before it came out. And he's like, yes, I would, like to do. I'm going to try and avoid doing a French accent. It'd be offensive. But he's
Please,
like,
let's not, yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to tell a story. He wanted to retell the story, but from the alien buddy's point of view, which would have been very interesting. Instead, what was developed was a game where it's just the alien and it's a separate story. So he didn't really care for it in the beginning. I think he's warmed up to it over the years. There's actually a version of this game you can play on the Sega CD, which has both in the same disc. That's actually a really great compilation if you want to play both of them. But the first one was his baby. The second one was not really his. And then we had Flashback. Right. Really, I haven't seen much like this since then, and that's a shame because this is the kind of style. I mean, they can make it look a little bit better. They have for this 20th edition, 20th anniversary version. But I think they could do a game like this today, and I think it would do really well. Just the concept of a cinematic game where language is not a problem, and it's just you're telling a story visually only, and just such great puzzles, but still action. There's lots of action in this game with the puzzles. It's such a great game. I'm glad you played this, Chard, because this is a game I'm meaning to go back to, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I got frustrated, and I'm glad I went and watched the playthrough of it because it's a great game to revisit for sure. Okay.
I appreciated it, and this is not something I think that I would normally be like all up over, or you guys would think that I would be interested in anything of this caliber. But when I was younger, I really appreciated these games. I appreciated the rotoscoping. I appreciated the whole Flashback style. I would love to give Flashback another shot, but that game is so frustratingly hard for me. And it's like the only thing that I wish for Another World is for it to be longer. That's all I
Yeah.
want, and that's what Flashback kind of did. They took this and made it longer, and I'm like, this game's too hard. It's too long. You forget. Be careful what you wish for, because someone will make it happen, and then you'll play it and you'll be like, oh, it's just more of these frustrating puzzles. Just another 40 goddamn minutes of the frustrating puzzles. But I don't know if you're not if you guys like the Prince of Persia style, the older Prince of Persia styles, or Oddworld or Flashback or any of these games, and you've not given Another World a shot, I think it comes highly recommended amongst the Press B to Cancel crew on all of us. Um, Sinistar wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't, and he had a lot of positive things to say about it too. So and Wolf the same way. Wolf had other plans that he needed to get taken care of tonight too, but he also was like, "This game is spectacular." So I don't know GP's feelings about it, but I have a feeling that he also would approve of this game. And if me and Jake agree on something, go play it, because that's
Yeah.
a rarity. That's a rarity within itself.
We
So
like the same games, Chard. What's wrong with you? We like all the same games. I like Elden Ring. We both like Super Mario RPG. It's all good. I'll save it for that episode.
we like aspects. We like aspects of the Super Mario.
Shades of the game. Yeah. Yeah, this is fantastic. Flashback
Right.
is good too, but
That's
yeah.
That's what caused me to play the game, was because Wolf nominated this for the top 100. That's why.
Shit. Did he really?
I forgot why we got into it. He did. He nominated this for the top 100, which
There
is
goes
why
my
I was
pick
like,
for this
I should
week.
play that. Oh my god, are you really gonna lean onto this chance? You got to watch your episodes, man.
Dude,
Maybe watch your own show.
Yeah, but it wasn't on that episode. Why do I want to watch an episode I'm not on?
Wow.
I listen to them. I promise. I listen to most of
wow.
them. Most of them.
I'm not here. Why would I listen to it?
I listen to
I
good
have good
30% of the
points.
episodes. 30%. Okay.
Oh man, that's funny, because I did not pick a game of the 100 top 100 game today, so I got to think
Did
about
you?
that for a hot minute. I did not. No,
Give me 1 sec here. I'm going to look at this list real quick. Actually, should we?
Are we
write
already
off the
transferring
list?
over that? Are we ready? Are we already ready for
Well,
100? For
if you have something you want to say about Another World, but I'm just going to say about Another World, it's a fantastic game. Everybody needs to play this game. It's not like it's long.
I agree.
And in the world of FAQs,
it's short, but it's worth it. It's worth it right now. And again, yeah, you can look some stuff up to kind of figure out the puzzle if you get stuck. I'm not gonna be a big guy and say, "Oh, I played this game through." I did have to stop and look at something up, because I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here. So there is some opportunities, but this game's great. I would highly recommend it. Once you get used to the controls and you kind of feel it out, it's spectacular, and it's literally at your best. If you're playing this and knowing exactly what you're doing, it's 30 minutes out of your life that you might want to replay it again and try and get it faster. I don't know. We beat it in 45 minutes, and I'm not a great gamer. So, there's definitely opportunity to make it longer if you want to. That's what she said. But you can definitely tackle this thing fairly quickly, and I think you would enjoy it. I think it's got a lot of cool aspects in it and a lot of cool puzzles, to not make it monotonous, but to make it very exciting. So would highly recommend for me.
Yeah. And it's already nominated for our top 100. All right. I've got a game for the top 100. So if you want to think of one while I'm talking.
That means I actually have to think of one.
Yeah, we got to get this list together, man, because then we got to do that 6-part series.
You fucking stretch this bitch out, because I got to look at our list to make sure I'm not missing anything. So
all right, so here's a game that's on the list, and I think is universally acclaimed, but it's also one that I like, and I played it recently, and that is Mega Man 2. So here's the thing. I did not want to have a lot of the same franchise on the top 100 list. I want to avoid it, but there are certain games that I think are just stand out that we have to include. We're going to have the same fight with Mario games, I'm sure. Mario 3, Mario World, all that stuff. Mega Man right now, we only have Mega Man X on the top 100 list, which is fantastic, but a very different feeling game from the classic Mega Man series.
Yeah.
And when I
would argue that Mega Man 2 and Mega Man X would not share the same, just because they're both Mega Man games, they don't share the same space. So I would not veto this. I think this is a good choice.
Yeah, very different gameplay styles, even though they're both run and gun and they're both blue bombers, but they're totally different feeling games entirely. And when I look at the classic Mega Man series, there's a lot of great games there. But I find like one a tad too difficult and a little bit thin on the gameplay. 3, as GP will keep pointing out, I mean, as much as I love 3, I think GP's right in that it's a much longer game and punishingly difficult in the back half. And once you get into 4 and 5, they're not bad, but I think the franchise really gets its start in Mega Man 2. And I mean, when we're talking about games on the NES that have killer jams, Wily's Castle's music tune is just like some of the best in the NES, if not one of the best, period. Like Wily's Castle is just is an iconic jam. All the bosses are really great and
I
catchy.
think I was gonna say every Mega Man 2 song, musically, sonically, is top of the line.
Yeah.
I know we talk about 4 a lot. 4 is a great game. I love Mega Man 4. It's probably one of my favorite out of them. But music-wise, if it were to go up against 4's music, 2 would win. I
Yeah.
think 2 is the most memorable out of the entire series and the best of the bangers out of any Mega Man game, arguably.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you, I
Okay.
mean, you
I
and
think
I
I
did
have
Arcade Pit a couple months ago, and there's a segment of that where you have to
Mhm.
guess the tune, basically. I wish we got
Yeah.
Mega Man on that when we had that segment, because if there's a
Oh,
Mega
man, we
Man
would've crushed that.
2, oh yeah, we'd have crushed it easily. Every boss, no problem. It's that memorable, and it's
Like,
just
we could name which
yeah,
bosses they were.
yeah. So I think
Oh,
I think
that's
such a
Bubble Man
fantastic
stage,
game.
easy.
Yeah, um,
Agreed.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna make a joke about Wily Wars, but no, the original is better. Although I do
Yeah,
like
don't
Wily
even.
Wars,
The
but yeah,
blast processing just doesn't do it justice for the
it doesn't
Nintendo
improve the
version.
music in any way whatsoever. All right,
No,
Chard, you got a
not in
game?
any way, shape, or form. I do, and I don't know if anybody's gonna agree with me on this one. This could be a vetoable one, but I'm thinking about it, and this was one of my favorite PC FPSs growing up as a kid. A lot of people were playing Doom at the time. I was playing Descent, and
Okay.
I want to put Descent up on the top 100s. I like the concept of Descent because Descent was a 360 FPS. It wasn't your straightforward hallway FPS. You flipped and turned and did all kinds of turns and wheels and stuff. I loved playing Descent growing up. I actually had to buy a Sidewinder controller stick to play it right
Yeah.
because it was very difficult to play on any kind of PC keyboard and mouse or standard controller. Um, I think Descent is a phenomenal game. It's honestly, I don't know if it is because not a lot of people talk about it. I could argue this is a hidden gem of an FPS if people have not heard of this game. I think I can. I could have. And if I was in that episode, I probably would have put Descent up
Is it
as my
Hidden
hidden gem
Gem?
because I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people have played Descent back in the day. Um, but it's got the same upgrades as Doom. You get some cool laser guns, you get some cool stuff. It's the same concept as any of those other FPSs. The only difference is that it was 360. So you could
Yeah.
do flips, you would fly into one area and then fly out, and you could get really turned around in the areas, and it would make it for a little stressful. But I really always loved playing Descent. I thought it was really up there. I played it once on PSX. I only played the PC version, and I
Right.
believe I played all the way up to 3. I think there's 3 different Descents at this
Was it
point.
really? I didn't even know it
Um,
had sequel.
I think there
I
was.
knew the first
I
one. I
know
played
it
the
had a
first one.
2, and 2 was spectacular. I love 2. When 2 came
Okay.
out, I was really excited, and I remember the day I was in Fry's Electronics, and my parents gave me the option of one of 2 things. I could either buy the 32X for my Sega Genesis, or I could get Descent with the Sidewinder controller, and I went with Descent over the
Yeah.
32X, which was a hard decision at the time because everybody was like, "The 32X was a new thing." But now I'm happy I
Yeah,
did
but
because I got a lot of yeah, at the
in
time, it
hindsight.
was new. Yes, in hindsight, I made the right decision. I
Yeah.
would highly, highly suggest anybody looking up Descent. I think there's a remaster version on Steam, probably, or you can find it somewhere and giving Descent a run. It's just like Doom, but again, you're in a spaceship flipping in and out, and the enemies were cool, the bosses were cool, the upgraded weapons were really neat. And it just fit right in that vein of the FPS styles of Duke Nukem 3D, Doom 2, and Wolfenstein, and all that stuff. So Descent
Yeah,
will be my game of this episode. I'm a big fan of that
I
one.
think there was. I mean, it was a pretty unique concept that has not been revisited very often. I want to say there was a game
Mhm.
called Forsaken on the N64. It might have been a PlayStation as well, inspired by Descent, but Descent was the original. And that 360 movement, it takes some practice to wrap your head around it, but once you figure it out, it's so cool knowing that you can attack
Yeah,
from
it's cool.
every conceivable angle.
Mhm.
Really well designed
Mhm.
game. And yeah, that's a very unique shooter that I can't think of another game in recent memory that adopts that style of gameplay. I really can't. And it's interesting because like there's so many
Same.
different first person shooters these days and battle royales and extraction and all these things, and nobody's really gone back to that kind of movement, which is interesting. I think Descent is a
Right.
great choice for this
Right.
list. That is a very unique game to play and not replicated.
Sweet.
Plus,
I'm
Sinistar would
glad I
probably
thought of
prove
that
it's a
on the
PC
spot.
game.
Yeah, he's already giving me that it belongs and that it is a good choice. So I'm proud of that.
There you go. He's here in spirit.
So.
All right. Well, I think that's our 2 for the Press B Top 100, and we talked about Another World. If you like this episode, please give us a like on YouTube or leave a review on your favorite podcast app. If you interested in hearing more from us, check us out in our Discord or check us out on Twitter or occasionally on TikTok. I'm working on clips. I didn't take one now, though. I had to work myself to taking clips. But anyway, check us out at pressbtocancel.com or on YouTube, Press B to Cancel. For myself, you can find me on Twitter. For now, I'll be damned if I go on Threads. I'm not touching anything Facebook's name on it. I'm still playing through Battletoads. Battletoads and Tears of the Kingdom. I've kind of given up on
At least you're still
Diablo
playing your
4.
game.
Yeah, well. Although I did find out Diablo 4 works with an arcade stick, so I might get back into that just for the hell of it to say I beat it with an arcade stick. It's pretty funny.
There you go.
What have you been up to, Chard?
I actually started up Mario RPG for my first time ever a couple days ago. Last weekend, I think, is when I started it up.
Yep.
And we're just kind of playing through that and experiencing it without rose-colored nostalgia glasses because I did not play it as a kid. We've had a lot of people come in and tell me how great this game is, and it is good. I'm not saying it's not, so don't shit on me just yet.
It's
There are
great.
things about it that I don't quite understand everybody's thrill about some of the things in it. But I like the differentiation between people that grew up playing this game and they're just like, this game is fucking amazing. And I'm playing it, and I feel like that Tim Robinson meme where he's like, you sure about that? You sure about that? But I mean, it's still fun. I'm having fun playing it because if I don't like something, I'm gonna shit all over it and stop playing it. I'm just gonna shit on this and keep playing it because I'm having fun. I'm having a good time with it. I've enjoyed it. I know the remake's coming out or remaster or whatever's coming out here November, I think they
October?
said.
I think it is.
Um,
Yeah.
it's either October or November. It's sometime towards Christmas time. And I just wanted to get my feet wet into it. And if we ever decide to have a discussion, I wanted to have some fucking ammunition because with it coming out, maybe we have that discussion at some point. So
Yeah,
instead of just
spoilers,
sitting
we're
there with my
talking about
hand
this
down my
game
pants being like,
because a few of you don't like it and it's driving me nuts. This is another case of a game that Jake grew up with and loves, and everybody's shitting all over it. So we'll have an episode on it. Whether we do it sooner rather than later, I don't know. I am excited for that
and
remake, though. And that's a shocking remake that's
that
got
is
announced.
part of
I
the
never
fun.
expected that. It's part of the fun.
That's part of the it is. That's
What's
part
that?
of the
Jake
fun.
likes it? Stomp it in the ground.
Fucking shit on it.
Remind me never let you
Man,
near
it's
my
like you've never
childhood
been on this
hamster.
podcast
It's
before.
just doomed. Anyway.
Wow. I'm also playing through Final Fantasy 16, but I'm posting those videos up on YouTube.
Right.
Currently still holds very tightly the game of the year for me because it is epic. It is absolutely amazing. If you have not, and you have the opportunity, because I know it's a PS5 game, but if you have the opportunity to go and play Final Fantasy 16, just get over the fact it's not turn-based and just do it because it is awesome. Very cool.
Well, I think even you said earlier today that Final Fantasy hasn't been like turn-based since like 10, right? So it's been
I mean,
over 10
officially.
years.
Yeah. It's almost like they slowly worked their way out of it. That's going to be another episode, another topic for another episode. But point being, get over it and go try it out. And your eyes are going to be as big as mine and my thumbnail for it because it just keeps getting better. When I think it's as good as it's going to be, it gets better. So also go listen to our last episode and you'll hear me talk all about it because it's really,
Right.
really cool.
You guys talked about that last week.
We did.
I should
Anyway.
watch that one.
But that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm working on.
No, honestly, I'm glad you like it. I wish I could play it, but it's only on PlayStation. But I'm looking forward to us doing Game of the Year episode, because Game of the Year is going to be. There are so many great games, Chard. So many.
This is going to be a fun. This is going to be a fun episode, because I know yours right now is Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Mine is obviously Final Fantasy 16. I'd love to hear what the other guys is like so far. What their games are.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a really cool discussion between all of us about what we like about it, because I've played literal minutes of Tears of the Kingdom, and it's overwhelming to me because there's a lot to do. While Final Fantasy 16 is a lot more like, I guess you could call it spoon feeding in comparison to that. They're just like, here's all this cool shit that's happening literally right now. While Tears of the Kingdom is like, I'm seeing people build shit, and I'm like, what are you building? And I know, Jake, from playing Valheim with you, you love constructing things from the ground up. So that's totally in your wheelhouse. Whilst for me, that is not something that I'm interested in. So I'm really interested in hearing like Wolf's take on it, because I know Wolf has been very positive about it. I'm interested to hear what Sinistar thinks his game of the year is for this one. I know he was playing the System Shock remake, and he was super pumped about playing that. I'm not saying that's what his choice was, but I'm just saying there's going to be some really cool games, and we're not even done yet. We're still in July. There's
halfway the year
months of games coming out. Sea of Stars is coming out. A bunch of other games that I'm looking at is coming out, and I've been waiting for Sea of Stars forever. So, which we should probably do an episode on that when it comes out.
Oh, we have to.
But I'm pumped.
We're not playing it. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and no, it's 2023 is going to be a killer year for games. I haven't seen a year of games this good since 2011, when you had Skyrim and and BioShock and a bunch of other ones. So it's a really good year for video games, which is nice, because we've had a couple of years which has been on a low. So this is a great year.
Right.
All right, guys, or guy, my second favorite host and me.
Here.
They're here. Are they in chat?
Right?
Okay. All right, guys. We are Press Me to Cancel. Thank you very much.